Kadosh Boker Or, Daf Yomi Masechet Shevuot, Daf Mem Daled Amud Aleph 44a1. We're just going to start on Mem Gimel Amud Bet, just to go into it again. We wanted to say that there's going to be a machloket Tanaim, right, with the halacha of Shemuel, right, where it says like this: Amalvet Chaviro al Mashkon ve'avad Mashkon. Imagine right now you lend something to your friend. Now, when you're going to lend something, you always want a collateral. You want something in return. So you lent it with a mashkon, and the mashkon got lost. So the malveh, which is the lender, has to yishava. He has to swear that it was lost. V'yitolet ma'otav, right? And then he's going to collect his money. Div Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Akiva says, Yacholu shiyomar lo, klum levitani lamashkon. He says, what are you talking about? I only lent you with a mashkon. Avad mashkon avdu me'otecha. You lost a mashkon, you lost your money. Which means like this. What happens right now if I lend you, Richard, $1,000? How much are your DJ things worth?
$20.
$20. So now you gave that to me as a collateral. Yeah, I lent you $1,000. You gave me the $20 earphones. So now the question is, it gets lost. So now technically you could tell me, listen, Rabbi, I apologize. You accepted it. That means that's your payment. Right, which means that the payment that goes instead.
We never specified.
Very good. Aval, he says, aval amalveh elev zuz b'shtar v'niach mashkom yado divrei kol avad mashkom. So that if it's going to be, the only question was if it wasn't done in a document. But if it was done in a document, which means mamash there's a shtar, for sure, according to everybody, avada mashkon avdu ma'otav. You lost the mashkon, you lost the money.
Wow. So that's why you would not accept something for $20.
Very good, because usually that's why I said that nowadays, we mentioned yesterday, right? Because we said that nowadays it doesn't exist lending for less than what it is. Because nowadays, for example, you're going to have a mashkanta, which is basically the mortgage, or you're going to have something on the car, you're going to have anything. You will never get a loan which is worth more than the collateral, right? They will always make sure that the collateral is always worth more than the actual loan that a person is going to do. Ma. This is what we learned yesterday. Okay, and now the Gemara continues and says, Echidami, what is the case exactly? If you're going to tell me that it's shaveh, the actual chov, so my tamad Rabbi Eliezer, what's the reasoning of Rabbi Eliezer that he says that if you lost the mashkon, you didn't lose the chov? Why not? It's the exact same value. Elalav, but rather you're forced to say, it's not worth the value of the loan. Meaning, like we said, let's say I don't go to extremes, 500 and 1,000, right? And they're arguing in the Svara of Shemuel, which means Rabbi Eliezer argues on the Svarat Shemuel, and he holds that if the mashkon is worth less than the chov, right, not only can he not take to collect from it, but also he cannot take the mashkon at all, which means he's not going to take in order to be a certain, but rather it's just like a re'ayah that there was a halva'ah, in order that he shouldn't be, meaning like this. According to the Shita, I'm going to ask you, why did I take the value? Why did I take that if it's not the real value of the loan? The loan was $1,000. Even let's pretend he got the good ones. The bull boss or whatever it was. That there are $300, whatever. Something like that. So now you're gonna come. You're gonna tell me, listen, this is a $20 one. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. You understand? Why am I taking it? He says the reason why I took it was a proof to the loan. Exactly. No, it was symbolic, but it had to be also a proof to the loan, because somebody's gonna have to ask you, 1 second, whoever said that he lent you the money? So he says, this is my collateral.
His name is on it.
This is my collateral. How did I didn't steal it. There's a collateral. So therefore he comes and he says, since it's only for a re'ayah, not to actually accept, meaning to collect, so therefore if he gets lost, right? And again, obviously, it didn't get lost because I was negligent, you understand? So therefore I didn't lose anything. So I just have to come and swear that I didn't lose it with negligence, right? And it's not in my possession. And then all I have to do is just collect the entire chov. Rabbi Akiva holds like Shemuel, and he says, no, even if it's going to be less than that, right, the mashkon and the loan become equal. And therefore what happens is he loses the entire debt. So this is mamash from one extreme to another extreme. One more time. I've got a loan. I lend Richard $1,000. He's going to give me a collateral, his earphones. Doesn't matter the value of the earphones. Let's pretend it's $500. But obviously, if it's worth $1,000, there's nothing to talk about. But it's worth, let's say, $500. Yeah, it's very, very good earphones, top of the line. He deserves it. Kol hakavod. Okay. Now what happens is as follows, right? He loses the earphones. Now, obviously, he has to swear that he was not negligent. Plus, he doesn't have them. Because if he has them and he just so then that behemet is a problem, because that means he's stealing my ear. I'm stealing the earphone, so I have to swear. I'm the one that has to swear that it got lost or or that I don't have it. Okay, and I was not negligent. Fine. So now I come to Richard, right? And I come to Richard. I say, listen, by the way, can you please give me back the money? He says, yeah, but I gave you the collateral. No, but I swore that I didn't lose it negligently, and I don't have it. So you have to give me the full amount of money. That is one shita.
But if it's in a star,
no, in a star according to
the debt,
yes,
we have paper that
exactly,
shows the debt.
Yes. No, he just said the last part that we mentioned in the previous Gemara, that if a person has a document, so therefore in such a case, you can't say that what was the reason why I got it because it's symbolic. You have a document. In the document it says that there's a loan. So why do I need the collateral to show there's a loan? I already have a debt document that there's a loan. So therefore, if you gave me the collateral, it means that it was equal the value of my loan. Even if it's not 100% equal, that's what I'm looking at it as if it's equal. So therefore, for sure, according to everybody, I lose my loan, because if you lost the collateral, you lost the loan. Okay? Yes. Okay.
In reality,
No, really, be'emet, it's not part of the machloket. Really, be'emet b'delo shaveh. We're talking about that it's not shaveh to the money, which means that the collateral is not equal to the loan. And nobody, whether Rabbi Eliezer or Rabbi Akiva, they do not hold of the din of Shmuel, that he says that the malveh is accepting upon himself the loss, that if he loses the mashkon, he loses the entire thing. But according to Rabbi Eliezer, he doesn't lose it at all. And according to Rabbi Akiva, he only loses the value of the mashkon, meaning like this. At the beginning, we had a havamina. There was one opinion, right? In the havamina, meaning in the first thought, that really bemet, if I lost the $20 things that I received, I lost the entire chov. That was a havamina. He says now it doesn't exist. The only question is, do I lose the $20 or whatever it is, the value of the mashkon, or do I not lose anything? That's the machloket. But here the machloket is the bemet, it is shaveh, the exact amount. Meaning he gave me $1,000 earphones for $1,000 of a loan. Right? They're arguing in Rabbi Yitzchak. How do we know that the Balchov is going to be koneh the mashkon, right? Which means that it's his until the guy pays it back. Meaning, until Richard pays me back, these are now mine. These are now mine. Meaning they're not Richard's anymore. He gave them to me. These are now mine. And again, remember, we're talking about the same value as the loan. Same value.
How to use them?
Very good. It's a very good question. Very good question. One second. Very good question. I think in the footnote he speaks about it, but I'm not sure. Right? He says like this. He says, one second. So he says,
it's right on the money.
Yeah. So he says, shekoneh mashkon. It says in pasuk, ulchat tzedakah. What is ulchat tzedakah? The giving back the mashkon is like tzedakah. Now he says, imeno koneh mashkon tzedakah minayno. 1 second. I come and I give you back the mashkon. Why is that a tzedakah? But rather because bemet, this is mine, and I'm giving you back the mashkon, right? And that's considered tzedakah. You guys know what I'm talking about, no? So we're talking about when a person, for example, is poor, and he gave you a mashkon, which is basically the clothing. Let's say it's pajama. Now what happens is he doesn't have money. So on the nighttime you come and you give him back the clothing in order to go to sleep with it. He needs a pajama. And then in the morning you come and you collect it again, or he has to give it back to you again. Now the question is, says the Torah, you give it back to him. Why do you give it back to him? Because you're doing tzedakah. Now the question is, what tzedakah am I doing? If it belongs to him, what tzedakah am I doing? Because I'm giving it to him. No, says the Gemara, because once I take it, and this is in parallel to the loan, this is now mine. So when I come now and I let Richard use it again, so that is a tzedakah. So he says, Ela mikal lebalchov. So from here we learn, right, shekoneh mashkon, that he actually acquires the mashkon. So now, according to that, if he's going to acquire the mashkon, if he loses it, so then really, now I understand why you would say you actually lost the entire debt, right? But he comes and he says, but according to Rabbi Eliezer, you do not acquire the mashkon. And therefore, according to that, it's not a mashkon gamur. So therefore, if you lose it, I didn't lose anything. But it's not really mine. I didn't lose mine. So says the Gemara, Lema de Rabbi Yitzchak Tanaim. So why don't I just say that which Rabbi Yitzchak says is a machlok Tanaim, right? What does that mean? It's a machlok Tanaim between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva. So says the Gemara, V'tizbera. Do you really think it's logical to say such a thing? Emor d'amar Rabbi Yitzchak. When does Rabbi Yitzchak say is halacha? Shemeshkano shelo b'shat alva'ah. Only if he gave him the mashkon not at the time of the loan.
Later.
Meaning it was later on, right? So he says, Mishkeno bishat alva'ah miyaman. But if he gave him a mashkon during the time of the alva'ah, is there anybody, does Rabbi Yitzchak actually say this? You can't come and start saying that. He says, because if you're going to take it, shelo bishat alva'ah, for sure you're taking it as if to say that it's a collection. Then you're collecting that instead of it. And therefore it makes sense that it's going to be yours. But if you took it during the time of alva'ah, you're just watching over it just to make sure that you're going to get your money back.
The case is where the guy was coming to collect the loan. He said, look, I don't have the money, but take this.
Take this collateral, exactly. So now when you take the collateral, it's ki'ilu, you're collecting the money. So therefore you acquired it until he's going to come and he's going to give you back the money. So says the Gemara, Ella, but rather, mishkeno shelo bishat alvato. If you take the collateral not at the time of the loan, everyone holds the Rabbi Yitzchak. That means really be'emet, you hold the Rabbi Yitzchak, that really be'emet, it's acquired to you. Yeah, you heard it, it's acquired to you. But here, right? Somebody that's going to be, he's going to take the mashkon during the time of the alva, or shomer aveda, right? Which means that he brought in a shomer aveda to your property, right? Until you're going to give it back. That is the machloka between them. The itmar vizu stated, shomer aveda, right? Imagine right now, right? I find these. I found them. Now I know they belong to Richard. So what do? I bring them to my house, and I'm waiting to find Richard in order to give it back to him. So I'm shomer aveda. I'm watching over an aveda, a lost object. So says the Gemara, Rabba Amar. Rabba comes and he says, shomer chinam. What does that mean? A person that comes and takes a lost object into his house, he's like a shomer chinam. I'm an unpaid watchman, unpaid custodian, and therefore I'm only chayav if there was negligence. Right? Why? Because I'm not taking any reward for it. There's no reward. I'm not getting any money, not getting any benefit. So therefore, I come. I'm going only pshia, only negligence. Okay, fine. Says Memdalad Amubet 44b. But Rav Yosef Amar, Rav Yosef says no. Kishomer sachar dami. You're going to me shomer sachar. He says, you know why you're going to be shomer sachar?
Mitzvah.
He says because if right now somebody comes to ask me to do something as a mitzvah. Haosek b'mitzvah, patur b'mitzvah. So therefore, since I'm in the middle of doing a mitzvah of watching over the Avedah, I'm going to be exempt from taking care of other mitzvot because I'm busy doing a mitzvah now. So that in itself is considered a benefit that now it's ki'ilu, I got reward. It's ki'ilu that I'm a shomer sachar. Okay, so now according to that, obviously we know that a shomer sachar is going to be chayav, right? For, let's say, for example, for stealing or for lost objects, right? If he loses it, things like that.
He's negligent.
Yes. No. Negligent was shomer chinam. Here we're talking about shomer sachar. The shomer sachar is going to be paid. So the paid one is going to be chayav, even if it's going to be lost or stolen. Okay? So he now comes and he says, right, like this. So he says, right, so why don't we just say then that the Rav Yosef is a Tanai? What does that mean? The Shita of Rav Yosef that he says that he is like a shomer sachar, that's a machloket Tanaim. So says the Gemara, no. Everybody, whether it's Rabbi Akiva or Eliezer, the whole like of Yosef, that he's shomer sachar because he is gaining by doing this mitzvah. Here, though, in our braita, it's a malvet tzarich lemashkon, right? It's talking about that he wanted to use it, and therefore he's going to reduce the amount of what he's using. Yeah. So, for example, I took these earphones, yeah, and I wanted to listen to something. Now, instead of going to rent out earphones that would have cost me $20, I come and I say, you know what, I'm going to use them. And then I'm going to reduce $20 from the loan. So that's what the machloka between them is. More savar, one of them holds that even though you're coming and you're using the mashkon, it's still you're doing a mitzvah. And therefore, since you're doing a mitzvah, right, he comes and he says it's considered a shomer sachar. Because remember, when you right now are coming and doing a mitzvah, you don't have to give tzedakah to an ani or to do other things. So because of that, osek b'mitzvah, patur mitzvah. Rabbi Eliezer holds la mitzvah kavid. No, you're not doing a mitzvah. Because since you're doing it for your own benefit, so therefore you're not being osek b'mitzvah. So you're shomer chinam. So according to this shita, right, it's not a machloket tanaim, because really be'emet, it all depends whether you're using it or not. If you're using it, so therefore it's still considered, the first shita says, Rabbi Akiva comes and he says it's a mitzvah. According to Rabbi Eliezer, you're not doing a mitzvah. So according to that, it's not actually a machloket, right, tanaim. So says the Gemara, fine, maybe there's another machloket. Lema ketanai, what's the tanai? Hamalvet chavero lamashkom nichnesa shemitah. Imagine right now you're going to lend out money to your friend, and now comes shemitah. Af al pi she'eno shaveh la palga, even though the collateral was only worth, the mashkon was only worth half of the value of the loan.
But the due date did not come yet.
No, no.
So
But
Shemitah doesn't end it.
no, only because you have a mashkon.
No, excuse me, but if it's for 10 years and Shemitah came, I mean,
It cancels it.
doesn't, no, because it's not due yet. It only cancels.
1 minute. Richard, 1 minute. Yeah. What happens now is as follows. There are certain ways to get out of Shemitah problems. What is the certain way to get out of Shemitah
You're
problem?
saying the collateral
Right?
is like you've been paid
The
already.
pruzbul. Or pruzbul is that you give your debt documents to,
Listen up,
you give your debt documents to Bedin, right? You're handing Bedin. That's a
And they're
pruzbul.
collecting.
And they're the ones that are collecting it. So once you give it to the Bedin are the ones that are collecting agents. So therefore, once you're giving over, it's like you're giving it over to a collection agency. So the Bedin are the collection agency. Once you do that, Shemitah doesn't cut it off. The 7th year, the sabbatical does not cut off the loans. Another way is a malveh mashkon. If you look in the Gemara there, Makot, it says a malveh mashkon or a moseh shtarot bedin, and pruzbul is not going to come and it's not going. So malveh mashkon, you lent money with a mashkon. That's what we're talking about here. No, it's a special halacha that once you're lending on a mashkon, it's not going to be mishameted. So he comes here and he says like this. Ma?
Trading is okay because the person did not go against the Torah. He did give it back. It's 100%.
100%.
So the deal is like, Shamayim, and then so it's okay.
We're going to see. Says the Gemara, Hamalvet chavro lemashkon nichnesah shemitah, af al pi shehamashkon is only going to be only palga, eno meshamet. It's not going to cut it off. Okay, now he comes and he says like this. He says these are the words of Rashbag, Rabban Shimon Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Omer, אם היה משכונו כנגד חובו, אינו משמת. ואם לאו, משמת. He comes and he says like this. It all depends what's the value. If it's going to be the same value, so then be'emet, it's not going to be mishamet. And if it's not going to be the same value, it is mishamet. So says the Gemara, one second. Let me just understand. What does it mean now, eno mishamet? Right? What does that mean exactly? So he says like this. He says, my eno mishamet de ka'amar Tanakama. What does it mean, eno mishamet, that the Tanakama says? Ilema, if you're going to tell me now that the kavanah is that it's going to be kenegdo, that it's going to be half of the value, so we call the Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Savar kenegdo namin mishamet, that it is going to cut it off. So why do you have a mashkon bichlal? Right? If it's going to be less than half the value. So he says, elalav keneged kulo. Obviously, it's talking about that it's the full value. That is a machloket in Shmuel. Meaning, the Rashbag is holding like Shmuel, right? That even though the mashkon is the same shiur, right? Meaning the same value, still I'm going to say that you're taking it keneged kulo. And therefore, the entire chov is not going to be nishmat. According to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, he says that it's not going to be nechshav mashkon la keneged shovyo. And therefore, whatever's extra, right, is going to be different. So says the Gemara, lo. Leolam kenegdo. Really, be'emet, we're talking about that when we say it's not going to be mishamet, that Rashbag says, the kavanah is keneged the mashkon only. Meaning only the value which is keneged the mashkon is not mishamet. Ubeha kami palges, so here, this is the machloket. Tanakama savar kenegdo. Rav Yehuda the Navi savar kenegdo nami mishamet. So he said, Kamarta, so then why are you grabbing then the mashkon? Lemay tafis the mashkon? Lezichron dvarim be'alma, just as a recognition that he owes you the money, and not because of any other reason. Hadran alach shevuat hadayani. Okay. Al Kadosh, new perek, new chapter. This is chapter perek Shvi'i, 7th chapter. Memdala demubet. New Mishnah. We're now going to speak about the Shevuat Teset. Remember, Shevuat Teset is midrabanan. It's a rabbinical oath. It's not a deoraita oath. So it says like this. Kol nishba'in b'Torah. Anybody that's obligated a Shevuah from the Torah, nishba'in velo mishalmim. So therefore, they come, they swear, and then they don't pay. Meaning, all the Shevuot that the Torah puts on the defendant, it was whether it's going to be modeh b'miktzat, that you admitted to partial claim, or that you come and you have to swear against one witness, or a Shevuah, the Shomer, that he says that the Pikadon that was by him, it was not, I wasn't obligated to pay because whatever it was, there was no negligence or whatever the case was. So whenever you swear, and you become exempt from paying. Ve'elu nishbaim v'notlim, but there are certain people that they swear and they take. Meaning, usually you swear and you become exempt of paying. But there's other cases where you swear and you collect. You take the money. So what is that? Sachir. A person that's working. All right, what does that mean? I say that you didn't pay me. So I swear and I take the money. Nigzal, somebody that stole from me, right? Meaning the one that got stolen from. Nechbal, somebody that was hit, right? V'shekenegdo, right? Or when somebody was like, for example, kenegdo chashuda l'shavua, that, for example, let's say the other person is going to be chashuda l'shavua, means he cannot swear because he's suspected of lying or suspected of foul play, that he's not going to swear truthfully. So therefore, we flip the shavua to the other side. That's called, right? Shekenegdo chashuda l'shavua. The person in front of him, he's chashuda l'shavua, so we flip it out, and then he's going to swear and he's going to take the money. V'chenvani al pinkaso, or the chenvani on his pinkas, which means he's writing all the things that you took on credit, right? And now he's going to swear and he's going to get paid for it. So we're going to analyze each part of the Mishnah. Sachir. What's the case of Sachir? Sachir is a worker. Are you listening? You're working. Yeah? Hasachir Keitzad. What's the case of Sachir? Amallo, he comes and he says, Tell me schari shesh birchanu, pay me my salary. Vehu omer natati. The guy comes and says, what are you talking about? I paid you already. Vehala omer, he says, what are you talking about? Lo natati, I didn't take anything. So hu nishba v'notel. He swears and then he takes the money. Yeah.
These are rabbinically imposed for public policy purposes.
Yes. The
socially motivated.
Yeah.
The poor worker, he doesn't have nothing.
100%. We're protecting him. We give him protective rights. Rabbi Yehuda says, he says, no. He says, until there's going to be some type of a hoda'ah, then you would do such a vow. If not, not. So, Keitzad. Amar lo ten li tzchari 50 dinar shesh b'cha. V'hu amar lo, itkabalta dinar zahav. Right? Because you accepted something. So it has to be like a modeh b'miktzat as well. Meaning it has to be something that you are a partial admittance. Then you could come and the worker could swear and take. But if not, no. Next case, nigzal, the one that gets stolen from. What's the case? Hayu meidin oto shnichlasa beto. Right? What happens if there's witnesses that the guy comes into the house to take a mashkon, shelo birshut, without the permission? So imagine I lent you $100, right? You didn't pay me back yet. I go into your house and take the phone. Without permission. Right? Shelo birshut. Hu omer, kelai natalti. Vu omer, no natalti. He says, what are you talking about? He says, I didn't take it. He went and he said, look, he took it like a gazlan. The other guy says, no, I didn't take anything. What are you talking about? Azunish v'notel. He's going to swear and he's going to take it. That's takana chachamim. Rabbi Yehuda omer, no, again the same thing. There has to be some type of odah. What type of odah? Keitzad. Amar lo shne kelim natalta, vehu omer lo natalti elai echad. He says, no, I didn't take 2 utensils. I took only 1. So there was a hodah b'miktzat. There was a modah. It was a partial admittance. That's when you're going to swear. Third case, nechbal keitzad. Right? Somebody hit somebody else. So he says, what's the case? Hayu medim oto shnichlas tachat yado. Right? Shalem yatsa chavul. Imagine right now, I see you come into the room. And when you came into the room, you were 100% fine. You come into the room, you're limping, you're this, you're that, you're a black eye. Hey, 1 second, something's going on over here. So therefore, what happens? So he says, V'amar lo chavalta bi. He says, well, you beat me up. The woman, he says, I didn't do anything. How does it shvav notel? You swear and you take the money of the nezek, of the damages and everything. Rabbi Yehuda says, no. Again, Rabbi Yehuda omer shtei miktzat hodah. You need partial admittance. Case, what's the case? Amar lo chavalta b'shtayim. He says, you hit me twice. He says, no, I only hit you once. Fourth case, kenegda chashuda l'shavua case. What's the case?
45A?
Yes, 45A. Achat shvuat ha'edut, ve'achat shvuat ha'pikadon, v'afilu shvuat shav. Right? It doesn't matter whether we're talking about shvuat ha'edut, right? Which means that you know testimony about me or not. Or shvuat ha'pikadon, that I come in and I tell you you have my object or not. Or even shvuat shav, stam, that he just came and he swears for no reason, nothing to do with any of the previous 2. And now what happens is, v'afilu yaichem, and even one of them is going to be mesachet b'kuvya, so he's a gambler. Umalve b'ribit, or he lends out money with interest. Or mafrichei onim, or he's also doing these types of gambling, which is basically shooing away the birds, or sochare shvi'it, or he does business deals on shvi'it. Shekerengdov v'nishpa v'notel. So that the halacha is always the other person has to swear and take. What happens now? Right? What happens if they're both suspected of false swearing? So chazra shua limkoma. It goes back to its original place. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Meir, no yachlok. You just divide the money between them. Okay.
If they're both a bunch of liars,
so there's a machloket. Does it go back? Does it go back to its place, or do you say just divide them right between them?